Today on Mississippi Insight, bridging the vaccine gap, one woman's efforts to get people to the places where the shots are being given out. It's working in the Delta and being copied across the state. Also, the controversy over Confederate Heritage Month, the lawmakers condemning the annual observance and putting Medicaid on the ballot. Will the proposed initiative bring about expansion? It's all today on Mississippi Insight. Hello, everyone. I'm Byron Brown. We begin this morning with the effort to vaccinate Mississippi. As the state approaches 1 million people with at least one vaccine dose, it's still lagging far behind the rest of the country. Recently, ranking 49th among states, just ahead of Alabama in terms of people vaccinated per capita. Access to the vaccine has been a concern for many, but one entrepreneur is trying to help people, particularly in the Delta. Pam Chatman, founder of the Boss Lady Workforce Transportation, a woman known to many around the state, joins us via Zoom. And Pam, you started the Vaccine Transportation Initiative earlier this year. How are you working to help people get access?
One of the things that we're doing, Byron, is that we're providing access transportation to anyone in the Mississippi Delta area to go to a local clinic to be vaccinated. We all know that the different clinics across the Mississippi Delta area is at least 25, 35, and even 45 miles away. So we're providing transportation. And the other initiative that we're doing, we're actually going to the communities. We're meeting the people and serving the community where they are.
Pam, there has been a real effort to overcome vaccine hesitancy, particularly in the African-American community. How have you been able to deal with that?
What we've been doing is trying to get the community activists, people who the people in the community trust. And so since I've done television for 25 years, people know me. I was born and raised here in the Mississippi Delta. So we are actually putting people in front of them that they know and trust, like the pastors. We get into churches organized and asking them to step forward and be that voice for the voiceless and encouraging these residents to go and get vaccinated.
How has the Johnson & Johnson pause impacted the vaccine rollout?
We were getting ready to do the Johnson & Johnson here at a local church where we had about 300 and some people signed up to get ready to be vaccinated. And as soon as they heard that the J&J was paused, everybody pulled out. We only had about 50 people who decided to stay and take the Moderna.
Mississippi is improving as far as getting African Americans vaccinated, but why do you think the state is still lagging so far behind overall?
You know, I'm still kind of concerned about those numbers because, you know, as you know, Mississippi has a lot of pop-up vaccination areas. So I'm thinking that the numbers are not matching with the people, because if you travel around the state, you're seeing long lines for those who have drive-through vaccinations.
Do you believe it's because maybe some of the rural areas are where they're having the biggest trouble getting to people, or is it what do you think it's the issue there?
I think one of the issue is that a lot of people still do not trust the government. They don't want to be what they're calling guinea pigs, being tested with. And so I think a lot of people have a concern about it, and now even more since the Johnson & Johnson.
When we talked to the governor, he was saying most people want those vaccines to come from their own doctor, opposed to coming from a government entity. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, we're seeing both of them. We're seeing people say, hey, I have a pacemaker. I want my own doctor to do it, and rather than the community to do it. And so we're hearing, and a lot of our young people are just saying they're not simply going to do it. And since they heard about J&J, they're really are not wanting to do it at all now.
Are there other examples of other organizations following your lead?
Yes, we have the Community Foundation of Northwest Mississippi. They're spreading the word, getting the word out there. A lot of the churches are coming together. The pastor, St. Paul MB Church here, has been on the ground from day one, doing COVID testing, giving out incentives to encourage people to come and get vaccinated.
How long do you think it's going to take before we see full vaccination, or where we get to so-called herd immunity here in Mississippi?
I'm so nervous about that, Byron. I have no idea, because it's a struggle every day trying to encourage and educate and empower people that if they want the world to come back and be open again, some type of normalcy, we have got to get vaccinated.
What is your message to Mississippians right now as far as getting vaccinated and as far as being safe?
My message to people right now is this: listen, this is a serious matter. This is a national pandemic. And you're seeing that people who have taken the vaccination, they're healthy, they're strong, they're going by their daily lives. So let's pull together and let's all get vaccinated.
Pam Chatman, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us and talking to us.
Thank you, Byron.
All right. When we come back, the controversy over Confederate Heritage Month. Also, Medicaid expansion on the ballot. We'll tackle both sides of these issues next. Recently, Governor Tate Reeves signed a declaration declaring April Confederate Heritage Month. He did it with very little fanfare, but he drew the attention and condemnation of Mississippi's Legislative Black Caucus. Joining us now, Representative Robert Johnson. Representative Johnson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Byron.
This is not a new controversy, but the caucus's statement of condemnation referenced the Derek Chauvin trial and other events. Do you feel that this is an appropriate time to end this observance?
Yeah, well, it was more an appropriate time given the momentous step we took last summer of changing our flag. I think we told the world when we did that Mississippi was ready to go on a new path. And you take the month of April and make it Confederate Heritage Month. This was the month that Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This was a month when the Confederacy actually surrendered at Appomattox. There are a lot of things to celebrate in this month. Martin Luther King gave his life in this month. He was assassinated in this month. And so all the things that you talk about remembering your history, there's so many wonderful, glorious, emancipating, to use a term, things that have happened in our history that we can celebrate, that why would we waste it on a losing, treacherous war? Why would we do that? I mean, Great Britain doesn't celebrate losing the Revolutionary War. Nazi Germany doesn't celebrate losing World War II. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense in this day and age. The other thing is that I really feel when you look at our institutions of higher learning, what is being taught, the culture that's changing on our campuses, young people are being more interested in the political process, all the things that speak well of the state of Mississippi, the way we're moving forward. Why do we reach back for something that really drums up really bad feelings for at least 1 million descendants of former slaves?
The governor's office says that this is something that governors, Republican and Democrat alike, have done for the last 30 years, and that the governor believes that we can all learn from our history. Your response?
Yeah, we can learn. You learn, but you don't celebrate your history. Some history you don't celebrate. You learn from all of it. He's exactly right. We need to know what motivated the Confederacy. We need to know why that war was fought. We need to know why over 600,000 people died for what could arguably be a war that we didn't have to have. We need to know that history, but you don't celebrate it by naming a month after it. I mean, you just don't do that. And I don't think it lends itself to anything that's good. And I think Governor Reeves is smarter than that. I just think that he takes what looks like a convenient political stance to satisfy a small vocal minority in this state, because I don't think that's the majority of Mississippians that have to celebrate or who will celebrate Confederate Heritage Month.
Well, let's talk about some other issues, specifically Medicaid expansion. Once again, died in the session, but now there's a push to put it on a ballot initiative. Will that succeed, and what do you think about that effort?
Well, I'm glad that there's a move being made. It's a shame that we are elected and we are commissioned as legislators to pass laws, to take a stand, to do something. And we just like we shirked on our responsibility to change the flag, we're shirking on our responsibility to provide health care for over 300,000 working Mississippians. Again, I feel like this initiative will go just like the flag. When you leave it to the will of the voters and it's just not political rhetoric that people are spewing all over the place. But when people get a chance to vote for something that's good or bad for them, they'll pick something good. And look, you know, it's interesting that people talk about how much it's going to cost us. I mean, I can't say it any better than Senator Hart Bryan said. They want to pay us $1 million a day to take $1 billion.
Well, the governor says it's going to cost too much to expand Medicaid, but he said in our town hall that the Legislative Black Caucus asked that for $150 million to pay for our portion that the state just doesn't have, even though the American Rescue Plan is going to give $600 million. And he says, well, that only lasts 2 years, and after 2 years, we're still going to have to pay our portion of it. Your thoughts?
No, look, if his philosophy about that if he believes that, then he needs to stop taking Medicaid at all. I mean, Medicaid cost us something, but it was a 90-10 match. We're talking about, and it's not 2 years, so the first 3 years, it's 100%. The federal government gives us 100% funding. And after that, it's only a 90-10 match. But by the time it becomes a 90-10 match, you'll have so many more people working, being more productive, so many more medical professionals employed instead of leaving the state, that your economy is going to blossom in a way that money comes back to you. But this idea that, of course, in the Black Caucus budget, they say for Medicaid expansion would be $159 million. It's matching money, but it's no matching money for the first 3 years. I wouldn't have even talked about that. But some people felt like that was something they wanted to mention. But the truth of the matter is, now he's using that as, the Black Caucus says that it costs money. Well, if that's the case, stop taking Medicaid. You know what would happen if we stopped taking Medicaid? That 90-10 match that the state, the largest budget in the state is a $6 billion Medicaid budget, larger than our state budget. But we don't say no to Medicaid. We don't, because we can't afford to. And because we can't afford to have our populace sick. We want to take care of them. And it's our responsibility to do that. And that's why we should do it. And that's why eventually we will, whether it be by ballot initiative or whether it be by legislative action.
Or what do you think is going to happen in the long run?
Well, if I had to predict today, I'd say no, it's not going to happen in January, because the speaker says he doesn't want it, the governor says he doesn't want it, and the lieutenant governor says, well, I think I want it, but I hadn't figured out how I'm going to do it. But they all know we need it. But let me tell you what will happen. The minute we already have a prospect of anywhere from 10 to 20 rural hospitals closing. Now, when that starts happening and people can't get to an emergency room, or somebody has to drive 60 miles to have a baby delivered, yeah, you could see it happening in January.
Representative Robert Johnson, thank you for talking to us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Byron, for having me. You all have a great day. And look, April is really, truly Emancipation Month, not Confederate Heritage Month. That's what we're going to celebrate.
All right. Thank you, Robert Johnson. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll be right back. We're talking Confederate Heritage Month, Medicaid, and more. And joining us now via Zoom is former Republican State Representative Mark Baker. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Byron. Glad to be here.
This April is bringing new arguments involving an old controversy, Confederate Heritage Month. The governor signed a proclamation that's brought condemnation from the Legislative Black Caucus. The governor's office says it's been this way for 30 years and that we can all learn from history. Do you agree with the governor?
I agree with his statement. I pulled it offline so I could look at it. And, you know, the governor stated that as we honor all who lost their lives in this war, it is important for all Americans to reflect upon our nation's past, to gain insight from our mistakes and successes, and to come to a full understanding that the lessons learned yesterday and today will carry us through tomorrow. And with that, I understand the governor's proclamation. It is something that we should reflect on and learn from and move forward from.
Is this a question of politics? Will the governor be alienating part of his base by not signing this?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of, it's a proclamation that he signed. There are probably on his desk, I don't know, a dozen different types of proclamations for different points during the month of April to be declared for this particular thing and that particular thing. I'm not sure that it warrants the significance that is placed upon it by those who are critical of the governor. I think it's one of many things, and in this particular instance, it's just to stop. It says, "Hey, let's remember that there was a time we were there, and we're not there, and let's continue to learn and grow from it."
We'll be talking about this again come next April, do you think?
Well, I'm sure that there's always opportunity to foment dissension, and unfortunately, some of it is political. And when you get into those situations where it is political, yeah, you're going to hear about it again. Sure.
All right, let's turn over to Medicaid expansion. There's a proposed ballot initiative that would put the issue to voters. Is this how this should get done?
No, absolutely not. It's as bad as Initiative 42 and that attempt previously. We have a republic form of government, a republic form of democracy that we are represented, in a legislature. We have the opportunity to vote for our state representatives and for our senators, governor, and there is a political process that is in place for issues like this. I doubt seriously that there will be any headwind for it. I don't see the signatures being gathered for it, and even if the signatures were gathered, I don't see that passing at all. There's no hue and cry to take that out of the hands of the legislature.
Is there any way to get this done legislatively? The American Rescue Plan is offering up $600 million in incentive for the state of Mississippi to take this money, which could pay the state's portion for the next 2 to 3 years. Is that something that's attractive to the state?
It's generally not, and here's the reason why. In most avenues of state government, when you create a program or expand a program, dissolving that program or reducing that program back to size is very problematic. It's very difficult to do. Interests become vested, and to eliminate a program that exists is as hard as it's very difficult.
Those who support the expansion of Medicaid argue that if you expand Medicaid, it would save rural hospitals, it would help create jobs, and therefore it would help lift up the economy, and that money that it's generating would help pay for the state's portion into Medicaid. Do you buy that?
I don't. I'm not sure that the premise of the statement that local hospitals will be saved by the expansion Medicaid is fundamentally correct. I think there are systematic issues that are occurring with regard to rural hospitals that they're going to have to get a handle on. Some of that is funding, but some of that is the product that they provide to consumers. And, some of it is, where do patients want to go for treatment? I mean, if you're 45 minutes outside of Jackson, are you going to come to Jackson to a hospital, or are you going to stop at a local rural hospital? Well, part of the issue involved is that EMT training and paramedic training in your rural fire departments and in most fire departments is becoming so sophisticated that ambulances, EMTs, paramedics can stabilize patients and transport patients. And so much of that is become a consumer selection. Where does a consumer want to receive medical treatment?
Medicaid expansion will be talked about, I guess, continue to be talked about. So do you think it's pretty much a dead issue in the legislature, or do you think that we'll just continue to talk about it and it won't go anywhere?
Well, I think it's a dead issue from the standpoint of expanding Medicaid with this idea that your expansion is going to be paid 100% and then it's going to stair-step down. Because of the back end, the bill's got to be paid, and when it comes due, it's going to be significant, and it's going to be something we can't afford. Versus looking at the Medicaid program as it presently exists and finding ways to, within the same pool of money that we have, finding ways to optimize those services. I think that Mississippi should take its lead from the Medicaid director, who I've previously stated is, in my opinion, doing a great job. And from that, we should listen to what he has to say and what the experts over at our Medicaid division have to say, and proceed in accordance with those recommendations.
All right, Mark Baker, thank you for your insight and for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too. And we'll be right back.
Bye.
Thanks to Pam Chatman, Representative Robert Johnson, and former Representative Mark Baker for joining us. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.